Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Counsel of the Day with Shanrae, and I am Shanrae. As you coming in, please like and share. I do not own the rights to this music. I do not own the rights to this music, but this is our music for this month. This is our theme music, emotions, and that's what we've been talking about this month, emotions. As you come in, please like and share. As you come in, please like and share. Good evening. I'm multitasking, guys. Y'all see I'm multitasking. Good evening, Kendall. How are you? Good evening, and welcome to Counsel of the Day with Shanrae, and I am Shanrae. I do not own the rights to this music. I do not own the rights to this music. Good evening, Stephanie. How are you? Welcome to Counsel of the Day with Shanrae. Good evening, Aaron. And this is our theme music for the month, Emotions by Mariah Carey. I do not own the rights to this music. Good. All right, all right. All right. Uh-oh. All right, we're going to get started momentarily. I sure hope I'm on here. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Juanita. We're going to go on and get started. I see it's right at 9 o'clock, and this 30 minutes is going to go by quick. Welcome to Counsel of the Day with Shanrae, and I am Shanrae. This is our theme song for the month. Yes. Yeah, we're going to get started. All right. All righty, then let me turn this off, and we'll get started. Please like and share as you come in. All right. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Counsel of the Day with Shanrae, and I am Shanrae. All right. Our theme for the month has been on emotions. We are on week 3 now. And we've been talking about the 3 components of emotions. And this week has been the behavioral part of it. The first part was on Tuesday, and now we're on part 2 this evening. So I'm going to go on and get started with my website disclaimer. All right, and I wanted to also let you all know, and I will put this in the feed a little bit later on. If you all want to go and visit or review or just to see any of my past consultation teachings, you can YouTube me at Shanrae Price, and then please subscribe, and then you can watch any series there. So YouTube me at Shanrae Price, subscribe, and then go from there. Let's start with our disclaimer on this evening, and please let me know, keep me abreast of everything if you can hear me, if you can't hear me. This is an open platform. I am a Christian counselor. I'm a degreed Christian counselor. My degrees come from Ashford University, and I will continue to say that because to let you all know that I am qualified to do this. Let's start with our disclaimer. Please be aware that due to the nature of the technology that I'm using, there can be no assurance of confidentiality when using this online service. It should also be noted that due to changes in policies, that all replies are to be used as advisory and informational only, and will not constitute an official determination. Information provided by myself or any other counselor or any other religious leaders or someone with life experience are subject to the limitations of the current and the available material. But the final responsibility for successfully achieving a goal rests with you, the individual. So information online is designed to be helpful. However, this information does change frequently, and it is recommended that you, the individual, will consult another physician, another specialist, and or another religious leader to aid in your overall behavioral wellness. So again, welcome, welcome, welcome to Counsel of the Day with Shanrae, and I am Shanrae. Let me put this down. I'm sorry that I'm working so many different platforms. So this platform here just got a little weird on me. Hey, Alicia, how are you? Hi, Shantae. So good to have you all this evening. All right, so I am going to start with our scripture for the month, which is Romans 12:2, and it's coming from the Amplified Bible version. And it says, do not be conformed to this world. any longer with its superficial values and customs, but be transformed and progressively changed as you mature spiritually by the renewing of your mind, which is focusing on godly values and ethical attitudes, so that you may prove for yourself what the will of God is, and that which is good and acceptable and perfect in his plan and purpose for you. All right, so this is an open platform, so if you have any life experiences or if you want to ask any questions or anything like that, please feel free. And maybe even if you want to come in on a live, I will attempt to bring you in on live with this platform here. So let's start with our definition of behavior. I have 3 separate definitions for behavior. And so the behavior is the way in which one acts or conducts oneself, especially towards others, or the way in which an animal or a person acts in response to a particular situation or stimulus. And the third definition is the way in which a natural phenomena or machine works or functions. So those are the 3 separate definitions of behavior. So now we're on part 2. Tuesday, we broke behavior down and our reaction and actions and different things like this in different scenarios. So we're going to talk about basic assumptions on tonight. So all behavior is learned, and everything that I'm giving you all is it is research long-term or longitudinally by different psychologists such as B.F. Skinner or different people like this. So I'm going to let you know the person who researched this long-term research here. So all behavior is learned from the environment, from your environment. So behaviorism emphasizes the role of environmental factors in influencing people's behavior. So either the behavior is innate, INNATE, or it's inherited. So our behavior is either inwardly innate or it's either inherited. So this amounts essentially to a focus on learning, okay? So what this theorist here learned was that behavior through, they call it classical or operant conditioning, or a learning theory, that therefore it is our behavior is just, again, it's either learned or it's innate. So therefore, when we're born, our mind is just, it starts out as a blank slate. So when we had those people who are parents or been around babies, their brains are just strictly a blank slate. So whatever their surroundings are, that is what they're going to pick up. That's what they're going to learn. So behaviorism is primarily concerned with observable behavior. Behaviorism is the study of behavior. So behavior is the result of a stimulus response, which was a part of our definition above. So behavior, again, is the result of a stimulus response. All of our behavior is. So all behavior, no matter how complex the behavior can be, is reduced to a simple stimulus response association. And this research here is by Dr. Watson. So to predict or given stimulus, the reaction will take place, or given the reaction. I'm going to move past that because I just want to go over I'm going to skim over some basic things that we experience on an everyday, on an all the time basis. Now, this month I chose to expound on emotions, specifically because everything that is going on that we're seeing in the news, these Walmart shootings and these different, hi Miss Carolyn, how are you? These Walmart shootings, and good, bad, and indifferent. Even people, when you see these children who are such great humanitarians, how they're young, but they have a drive to maybe want to go and help the homeless, maybe want to go and do raise money for a cause. Maybe someone in their family had a incurable disease and they want to do something to try to help them do a lemonade stand or something. This is all behavior, and a lot of times, so a lot of it comes from environment, or sometimes it's just something that's just in you. All right, so this is why I chose to talk on and to expound on behavior this month. So let's talk a little bit about behavioral therapy right now. Behaviorism, excuse me. It talks more about the psychological disorders as a result of what they call a maladaptive learning, or a kind of dysfunctional type of learning. So as people are born, it talks about how people have we come into this world with a blank state mentality. Okay, so they do not assume that sets of symptoms reflect single underlying causes. And a lot what behaviorism is they just trying to find the cause of people's behavior. And even us, a lot of times we're trying to find the cause of why we react. Why do we react? Why do we respond certain ways to certain things? And we just don't understand it. This is what behaviorism, the study of behavior, is about. So they have something called classical and operant conditioning. And these two different studies is on the premise that all behavior is learned, whether it's faulty learning, which causes abnormal behavior, or the individual has to learn the correct or acceptable behavior through this. Hey, Jose. So an important feature of behavioral therapy is its focus on current problems and the behavior that's caused from those problems, and on attempts to remove that behavior from the individual. Okay, so this is what behaviorism is about, behavioral therapy. So let's talk about classical conditioning. Classical conditioning is a form of where it suggests that a response is learned and repeated through immediate association. Your mama, your daddy, your siblings, stuff like that. Your spouse, your schoolmates who you went to school with, your friends in your neighborhood. This is what they're talking about. So behavioral therapies based on classical conditioning, or people who are your immediate surroundings, they're aiming to break the associations between this, whatever the stimulus, and this desired responses or behavior. So originally this type of therapy was known as behavior modification. And these days it is usually referred to as applied behavior analysis. All right. So they have something, what they do with their, what's been done with their, I have to say patients, but what they've done with individuals, it's called aversion therapy. Okay, and so with aversion therapy, this process pairs undesirable behavior with some form of aversive stimulus, with the aim of reducing unwanted behavior. For example, alcoholics enjoy going and consuming large amounts of alcohol, and this is an example. So aversion therapy involves associating this type of behavior with a unpleasant type of unconditioned stimulus. As some people have actually had to go through electric shock to kind of teach them how not to go and overindulge with this alcohol. And this is something that they've used. Okay, so with this happening, the client learns to associate that electrical shock type of therapy with going out and drinking too much, and that kind of taught them how to kind of gear away from that being, that alcoholic type of tendencies. So this is called aversion therapy. All right, and so the critical evaluation, or the evaluation of this form of behavioral therapy is there are other two issues that relating to the use of this is first, it is not, they said it's not clear how the shocks or drugs have their effects, but it may be that they make the previously that previous shocking they just said it just with the person constantly thinking about, I don't want to be shocked again, so I'm not gonna go drink. And for some reason it helped. It helped that person. And that's, to me, that's a very extreme type of behavior. But some people have those extreme type of what they call it, urges, and they're not productive in their life. They're not, it's just they're not really productive, and they're not able to do anything else other than drink excessively and black out. So if this helps that type of individual, along with getting to the underlying behavior of why they're so dependent on this chemical substance, if it helps for that time to get them on the straight and narrow, then hey, just like, unfortunately, you hear a lot of people talking about, if they didn't get locked up in prison for 5 years, they would still be out there doing drugs, and they would still be out there, stealing and harming people and harming themselves. And you hear a lot of people say that they needed that extreme type of what it's called, they needed that extreme type of aversion therapy to help them get on the straight and narrow. So, I mean, it's working. That form of therapy works. Another form of therapy that is used is called flooding. And it's also known as implosion therapy. And it works by exposing the patient directly to their worst fears. I just saw something on the news where people who have severe allergies to peanut allergies, what they're doing now is exposing a lot of these people to small dosages of peanuts. So when they're around any type of peanut in the air or anything, they won't go into that anaphylactic shock and everything like that. So this flood is called flooding, or known as implosion therapy. And so there's another example where they talk about claustrophobic, people that are afraid of being claustrophobic. So they lock them up in a place for a couple of hours. And then as they do this type of therapy, it works. And the evaluation on this type of therapy has been about 100%. Systematic dissension, I'm going to skip down. Operant conditioning. Okay, so operant condition is a method of learning that occurs through rewards and punishments for behavior. So through operant conditioning, an individual makes an association between a particular behavior and consequence. And this is found, and it's from B.F. Skinner. He was a well-known psychologist. And so what they use is called the token economy. And I've actually used this myself, and because I'm a teacher as well, and a classroom teacher. And my students were the special education department. So this token economy type of therapy actually works. It worked. It worked for my students. It worked for my high schoolers. It worked for my middle schoolers, and it worked for my elementary school students. It works. So what this does is the token economy system. It targets behavior, and it reinforces things with like tokens or maybe money or something like that, which is later exchanged for a reward. So what I did with my students, and I'm talking about of all ages from K all the way to 12th grade, we had the buck system. I call it the buck system. So I created these bucks specifically for my classrooms, for my classes, and as not just behavioral, but also academically, as my students improved. As they improved and they learned and they did different things, they would earn their bucks. And by the end of the week, I had my teacher and I, we created a huge poster board and we put it up behind our desk, so where we can only get to it. And we had different things with different prices on it. For the gentlemen, they had the bandanas, or we had do-rags, or we had different things that we knew they would be interested in. And we would they can maybe for 10 of the bucks they can get a do-rag or something like that. So at the end of the week, if they earn as many bucks as they earn, they can go and cash them in and purchase whatever was on our board. And we switched it up, different things, switched it up. And this token, a token economy type of system, it worked. So like I said, I used it for grades K through 12. But we as adults and in our life, hey Sandra, how are you? In our life, with this reward system, or as it's called, I'm sorry, it's operant conditioning, but it's the reward and punishment behavior. I remember years ago, I was well, I'm gonna say it. I was with a couple. They were with a couple, and the wife was an at-home mom at the time, and the husband he went out and worked, and he handled everything. And he actually used this reward and punishment system. Unfortunately, this is what he had to do, what worked for him in his marriage. And so he would say to the spouse, okay, by the end of the week, if the laundry was done, by the time I get in, because he worked like 16 hours a day. So if he said, okay, if I come home every day this week and the house is clean, the laundry is done, and all of this here stuff, he said, by the end of the week, I'm going to hire a babysitter, and I'm taking you out. I'm taking you out Friday night, and we're just going to go hang out. And so I happened to just be around. I was helping out and babysitting and everything. I was young, but about 19 years old at the time, and they were grown. And the end of the week came, and it was time for me to leave, because I was there throughout the daytime kind of helping out. And I was around, and he got in it was the end of the week that Friday, and he said very nicely, I sat there and I took account of every day this week from Monday to Friday. I got home, the laundry wasn't done, it was clothes everywhere, the house wasn't clean, and I had to come home and make dinner and things like that. And I didn't say anything, but now it's Friday. Friday, she tried to get the house together and all that stuff because she wanted to go out. And he said, no, it doesn't work that way. He said, this is not our agreement. He said, you got a little bit of the stuff done today, the last day of the week. And he was like, and you're not working with me. We need to work together. And he said, so I'm not taking you out. He said, but I'm going out. And he left and he went out. And I was like, wow. And when you're that age, you don't really understand a lot of things, but I'm older now. And I have been an at-home mom for a short time in my marriage when our children were younger. And this is just me. This is just me. Now, this is how I think. When you're not in a upper echelon type of lifestyle, if you're not in an elite, you're not living an elite type of lifestyle, and you're a working class, you are a working class type of family. This is what I feel, and this is not only what I feel, but this is what I've lived and what I've done. When it was just my spouse working, and he was working long hours like that until our children got a certain age. When he got home from work, he never had to worry about his house being messed up and dirty. Dinner was waiting and ready. The children, the homework was done. They've been bathed already. He spent time with the babies and everything like that. And then they were down by a certain time. And then we had our time. And so I understood a little bit better when I was married and in the situation for that short period of time, me being an at-home mom, that's working together. And so I personally witnessed, even way before I got into counseling and all of that, that this operant type of conditioning, the reward and punishment system. And it eventually kicked in there with that situation. So with our life and everything, I got a little bit more into our the behavioral things and behaviorism and the cause and the responses, how some things are innate, they're inward, but most of the time it's just your environment. Your behavior is formed by your environment, and a lot of times if you grow up or you're around people that are high strung, you're gonna wind up being the same way and come across as illogical and high strung. Oh, I'm about it. And in your area, your neck of the woods, and in your, that might be acceptable, but globally that's not. It's illogical. And so this is what we're seeing more and more in the news, where people are just offended. They're reacting and responding and reacting in offense. And a lot of times, like I said earlier, what if it's just a straight up misunderstanding? So the more that we get to know about our inward, what's making us tick, what's these triggers, what's making us tick, the more we can learn a little bit more about ourselves, I know the more that we can get our emotions under control. I wanted to read a little something before, because our time is almost up. And it said, the right to be offended. It says, have you noticed how easily offended our society has become? It's embarrassing, really. Seemingly overnight, we've become an oversensitive, finger-pointing society who whines about everything. We've lost the ability to turn the other cheek and instead feel the need to personally right every perceived wrong committed against us. I can't throw many stones. I can't, because I get offended too, but I try to sit back, and this is me now. I try to sit back and evaluate the situation to see if maybe it was a miscommunication, right? But the irony is, it says, everyone else is easily offended too. But what would happen if we gave up our right to be offended? What would happen if everyone gave up their right to be offended? You know, it didn't take long before practice when so this, the person is talking personally here, but I'm trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. So the Bible clearly states that if you're a child of God, then that God is our defender. And we honor him when we trust him. You know, the word of God that says that vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Okay. But that's we have to pick and choose the situations. Okay. So I want to end this by saying that let's consider this, that being offended doesn't always make you right. And if we can think about that, hey, Ann, how are you? I want us to think about that. Even if you got to walk away and go somewhere privately and just sit there and think, being offended does not always make you right. It doesn't always make us right by being offended. So this is something to consider, that, you know, what if we feel offended, we need to think about, you know, what really is going on with us. Did we leave our home grouchy today? Were we upset by something else, and then we just going wherever we going with a chip on our shoulder, and then you somewhere walking through a line and somebody accidentally bump you and you ready to just rip their head off? You know, that's that anger, that aggression is off base. It's geared towards the wrong direction, towards the wrong, you know. So again, if we can consider this, being offended doesn't always make us right. And even if somebody did do something to you, you getting revenge doesn't always make it right. You know, so a lot of people, they gonna get revenge, whether they gonna strike at you right then and there. A lot of people plot stuff too. They plot how they gonna come back and get you. I was speaking with a friend girl of mine, and they said that they were watching a documentary with Oprah and Gail, and they started talking about how Gail's marriage had broke up. And Oprah is the one that brought it up. She said, remember when your husband cheated on you with an affiliate of hers? And so, and Gail said, yes, I do. And so Oprah had advised Gail. She said, why don't you go talk to her? Why don't you talk to her and find out what happened? How did this come about? So Gail said, okay. She went and she spoke with the person who she thought was an affiliate of hers. And the woman said to her, oh, I never liked you. I was pretending. I was just acting like it. I never liked you. What I did was deliberate. Gail she didn't punch her in the face. She didn't scratch her eyes out. She didn't pull her hair out. But she did find out the truth. That the woman, she acted like she liked her. She never liked her, and she deliberately went after her husband, or her ex-husband now. Now, did she have the right to be offended? Yup, because most of us would be. I was offended when I heard that statement, like, oh, really? But you know what? In the end, Gail is still good. She's still good. You know, she heard from the horse's mouth. She didn't hear from nobody else. The woman deliberately plotted and schemed. I'm quite sure those two, her ex-husband and that woman are not together today. And I'm quite sure that woman has reaped exactly what she sown, not one time, but probably over and over and over again. Because when you plot and you scheme, now if there was an offense that maybe Gail did to her previously, what she should have did was brought it to her attention. But what she didn't do is she didn't do that. She plotted and she schemed. And she went ahead. She acted like that she was a friend of hers. And she cheated with her ex-husband. So this stuff is not, this offense, we have got to get a hold of this offense. We've got to get a hold of it, work through it. And remember, don't hurt nobody. Don't hurt nobody, even if you are offended. Don't go after them. I can tell y'all some stories that'll sit there and your eyes will be popped out of your head. And I'm talking about professionally. How people have deliberately stabbed me in my back to make sure that I do not succeed. I have not gotten back to them. Gotten back. I haven't did any revenge with them. Because I'm trusting the process, and I believe the word of God. The word of God says, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. And guess what? He can do what we can never do. Because we can kill somebody, but we're going to pay. We're gonna go to jail for the rest of our lives, or you're going to have to kill yourself or be under the grid like that man that they just found last week who was up for murder, and he evaded the law for 3 years living underground for 3 years, but they still found him. He was living underground for 3 years, so you still not living. You still not living your life. And they finally caught him, and he's still going to jail for the rest of his life. So, you know, this behaviorism, we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. And with our time, my time is up. I know that this may not be the most stimulating topic for this month, but this is that I was led to talk about, and I really hope that you all got something out of this. I am Shanrae. I'm going to put a few things in the feed before we go. And again, my overall desire and wish for everyone is that you all will live a happy, healthy, joyful, productive life. That is my hope and dream and desire for you all. Whether I know you personally or not, that is my hopes for you all, and that whatever, because everybody goes through something, and that you will be able to overcome any type of awkward type of situation that you may have experienced in your life. I know that we can overcome it, and this is why I'm doing this. So I want to end. I'm putting one more thing in the feed, and then we're going to end, and God bless you all. I will see you all next Tuesday. And that will be the final week of Counsel of the Day with Shanrae for this month. So we're going to end with this song, Mariah Carey. Oh, Again, I got to turn my speaker on, guys. I'm turning my speaker on. Here we go. All right, and good night, good evening, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful weekend. Woo, I'm sorry, y'all. Have a wonderful weekend. Good night, everybody. Good night. Love you too, Alicia. I do not own the rights to this music. I do not own the rights to this music. Have a good weekend, everybody. Hey, hey. Good night, everybody.